Let's touch on that, man. So the nervous system, did you say? Tell me a bit about it. Because I would say I'd like to think I'm well versed in this space in the sense of I've done coaching programs. I've done like a lot of Tony Robbins stuff and, NLP.
Yeah.
A lot around coaching and influence and things like that, right? As well as understanding, human behavior and why we do what we do and the model of the world and the way we see it and what is it that drives us and things like that. So when you say everyone sees the world or takes the world in through their own nervous system.
Yep.
Let's go deep.
All right, let's go, man. I need a whiteboard.
Let's go.
Yeah, so
Talk me through it.
Well, I think we all, those that are listening to this podcast, we're all probably very similar. Everyone's looking for growth, for tactics, for tools, for strategies, for performance, right? To break through something, to acquire more information. And similar to yourself, I think we all get introduced to personal development through the Tony Robbins or the Brian Tracy's of the psychology of stuff, And for a long time, what we all understood and what many people still think is the answer is that, thinking creates feeling. And what I discovered was that it's actually not that. It's actually feeling that influences thinking. So what I mean by that is that most of us, including myself, when I was doing NLP and personal development, all the programs, read all the books, hundreds of books, I was trying to think my way out of a feeling problem, which is why I became aware of some of my stuff, like you probably did as you went on this journey. You start to go, oh shit, this thing in my childhood, oh shit, that, and oh fuck, man, this insecurity here, and but then if you're anything like me, which I think you are, man, it's like we immerse more of ourselves to go, well, I've got to be better, got to get better, and a lot of us are trying to outrun a feeling problem by thinking, by logistically working stuff out in our head. And so this whole notion of nervous system and what that does is, like, there's a great book by Dr. Bessel van der, can't pronounce his name, but it's called The Body Keeps the Score.
Oh, yes, I've got that book. I haven't read it.
Yeah, powerful book. And it just talks about how when we experience things growing up and, parents fighting, getting yelled at, getting lost, being bullied, being teased, whatever, when we experience a situation that is a little bit too overbearing, or we can't make sense of it, we can't defend ourselves properly, then we've all got this beautiful system within us that actually comes in to support us through that moment. And that's called the nervous system. So a lot of psychology talks about the amygdala, the brain, the crocodile brain,
So for people listening, the amygdala is like kind of like your fight or flight reaction, like when you don't think things through and you instant, if you touch something that's hot, you don't sit there and say, wow, this is hot, I should probably take my hand off. No, your amygdala quickly warns you and boom.
Correct.
It's like would you call it fight or flight?
Yep. So it's the reptilian part of the brain.
Yeah, the oldest part.
And it's designed specifically for times when we're like, shit,
survival.
Is a saber-toothed tiger going to chase me? This thing needs to kick into gear. And so I kind of talk to the amygdala being like the security guard or your bodyguard. So it's there when you're not there. When you're not quick enough to respond to a situation, this will kick into gear to protect you.
Like a parent will pull their kid out of the water, like if they're drowning.
Yeah, exactly. The other part that connects to that, that is all-encompassing, which I call like the secret services or the legionnaires, being French I am, is your nervous system.
So what did you call the first one, sorry?
The amygdala, the bodyguard.
The bodyguard,
So it's like the bodyguard. It's like you're walking around and you've got this
Make sure straight away,
you got this big thing walking around.
Okay. And then the second one's a secret service?
And then I call it like the secret services. It's less obvious.
Background.
Yeah. So the bodyguard, at times can be ego, as an example, where it's like you're coming in, you're being more boisterous, more cocky, more arrogant, because there's what's perceived to be a threat. So when we're talking about ego dynamics, what most people don't see is that there is a potential threat occurring in the moment for somebody. There's a part of them feeling inadequate.
And that's,
And then so the security guard turns into, this kind of, peacock as an example.
Yeah, like look how good, like to show them how good you are, so
Correct.
they don't see, they don't see through the curtain.
Exactly. Yeah. But what we didn't know for a long time, and what a lot of people in the personal development space don't recognize, is that if you're listening now in particular, and somebody's like, but I've done all this work, but yet something still feels off. Like
I feel like that sometimes. Man.
Yeah. That's what we're talking to right now. So this feeling that what's missing, or when I get to here, it's going to be okay. And I've heard you on previous podcasts where you've spoken about gratitude being a key to, enabling you to be grounded in the moment and to be grateful to help you progress. And it's very potent. But sometimes we can't escape this feeling, right? So we look to the external world to try to solve something that's happening inside. But what I said just before is that it's a feeling problem. And we're trying to solve it with thinking and doing. And so this whole notion of we all live our lives and relate to the world through our nervous system is that when we experienced events growing up that were challenging, our amygdala and our nervous system work hand in hand to set off a response: fight, flight, fawn, freeze are usually the 4 responses that your nervous system will go through. All right? Fight, flight is fighting, flighting.
Yeah, explain them for those listening.
Yeah, and fawning is like people pleasing and being extra nice when you're feeling a bit under pressure or a bit scared.
And lots of people do that.
Lots of people do that. And then the freeze response is like, and we've all seen it with kids and ourselves, like something happens and then the lights are on but nobody's home.
Yeah.
Like, this like car crash, somebody losing a hand, trauma, big trauma events. It's like, that's what's called disassociation. We freeze. So when that occurs, this system's powerful because it's actually helping us in the moment. It's helping us deal with a situation that we can't deal with. We can't cognitively be available for in the moment. The challenge that most of us didn't realize is that when you experience those events and you haven't then been able to process and remove the energy from those events, then that becomes your go-to response on how you do life throughout your life. Meaning that the moment you're an adult and you get triggered by your partner, the kids set you off, a business still falls through, whatever, like you're hustling, and something is really stressful in the moment, we all revert back to our stress response from when we were children. So if your response as a child was to fight, you're going to find yourself now being the hustler. I'm going to force this through. I'm going to push. You find yourself getting really frustrated, agitated, angry. If yours was a flight response, you're going to find yourself in situations constantly running away. Like, I can't deal with this. I'm done. I can't. Going.
Avoidance, right?
Avoidance. If your strategy was fawning, the people-pleasing sides of things, you're going to find yourself being very much, hey, trying to massage things through all the time, abandoning yourself to make others happy and doing everything for your family.
Putting everyone else
first, And if your response was fawn, as a freeze, then you're likely to be the person that is, in the relationship scene that I work with in particular, like, you're not emotionally available. You're not there for me. It's like he's here, but he's not. The women are usually saying that. Or, you find yourself sedating and just zoning out constantly for periods of time. They're your responses. But and that's the whole point of, we live our lives and relate to the world through our nervous system. So when our nervous system is activated, we go back to our childhood response, and that's what's running the show in our adult relationships.
So would you say that's tied directly with your, like we talk about a lot about, conscious mind, like you consciously do things and then a lot of stuff we do is habitual or unconscious, right?
Yeah.
Is that directly tied to that?
100%. Yeah. So the work that I kind of guide people through is going from unconscious into conscious. Unconscious meaning that the ego is running the show. The wounds are running the show. That little person inside of you who's still stuck, who's still trapped, is kind of dictating the show. And we've got to get to a point of becoming conscious where I call it soul, your innate essence, in other words, authenticity.
As in your soul?
Authentic, as in your soul, as in who are you authentically? Who are you with all the layers removed?
Yeah, without
at the
no
bare.
mask, no mask.
Exactly. It was a fascinating concept, and at the start it didn't make fucking sense because, for me in particular, like being a man, if you're a man listening to this, it's like we still want to go up in here in the logic side of things and make sense of it well, okay, where's the practicality of this? Like, what do I need to do?
Yeah. How can I use this? To,
You know, and my coach at the time, my guide is like, you're not getting it, Fabian. It's like, you got to drop in. And so getting into this process of actually feeling safe dropping into the body is this whole notion of how we start to begin the process of actually changing these responses so that we're no longer reacting to life. We now have the capacity to respond to life by choice. When we're in a place of reacting, we actually don't have choice. And a lot of us think that we do, but we do have choice, but the choice is, do I want to stay alive or do I want to die? Because if the nervous system is perceiving a threat, or the amygdala, it perceives that you're going to die. So it will kick into automatic gear, kicks you out of the driver's seat, and it's like, don't worry, Robbie, we'll take care of this.
Hijacks the brain.
Hijacks, right? Yeah. So when people do things wrong or the relationship breaks down, I hear this all the time. They're like, he had a choice or she had a choice. And I'm like, well, they do, but it's a choice between whether they want to stay alive or not. That's what their system is telling them, which is why we end up doing things, you know, that we're not so proud of sometimes. So,
okay, so and then, so there's those 4 main reactions.
Yeah,
that people will take, and then do you just change the way we react? Like, what is it? How do you fix it? Do you know what I mean? How do you know there's something wrong?
Sure. How do you know that something's wrong? Well, life reveals to you, usually in your relationships in particular, where you're not free. That's the first thing that I say. So how do you know something's wrong? Well, when your reactions to life are not proportionate to the situation that's at hand.
Like someone who flips their shit over getting cut off on the road.
Correct.
And you're like, dude, relax. Yeah, like he probably didn't see you.
Yeah.
And they
like
go bananas. Yeah,
absolutely bananas. It's like, oh, okay, you know.
It's a big reaction, yeah.
You've got a child. They spill something on the table. This was very common in my household growing up. You know, knock over some water. I'd either cop a slap. It's a big outburst. And it's like, it was just water on the table, you know. So now when my kids spill it, I can find myself at times like this volcano is going to erupt. And then it's like, ooh, I'm about to erupt. And then I've got to go through a process of regulating, bringing myself back into the moment and recognizing it's just a glass of water.
How do you do that?
By becoming aware that you're actually in the response.
So catching yourself.
Yeah, correct. Which is very hard to do. It sounds easy, but it's extremely hard to do, especially at the beginning phases of this work. We can't see ourselves in our own wounds. We're blinded by them. We're blinded by our own ego at times. Because why? It's the bodyguard, but it's an invisible one.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, I'm like, you think you chose your thoughts? You didn't. Your environment did. Your unconscious did. Your habits did. Like the things that we don't, you know, the beliefs that you haven't even thought about. You're so sure in those beliefs that you don't even question them.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And all that impacts everything you do. It's like you think you're in control. You're not in control.
No. Nope.
You are not in control.
It's an illusion.
It's an illusion. Dude, it is such an illusion.
Yeah, man. Yep.
Yeah, it's a very interesting. I find it personally. I find like that whole, you know, psychology, feelings, human behavior.
Yep.
I find that it's super interesting space. You know what I mean? And I feel like the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know. And you're like, man, like I thought I had this shit down pat, and then I found this out, and now there's like a whole other thing that's opened up.
It's crazy, man. It's this relentless pursuit. I always say inside of my community to like people, I'm like, we're actually unlearning
the bad stuff.
Yeah, we're learning by unlearning. You know, by actually, it's about actually
dropping the
shedding. And more being rather than doing. It's not the work isn't actually doing, it's more being. It's all in the moment of showing up.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click just over here. Or if you want to watch the full episode, you can click over here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.